Gridiron Grinder! Hut hut hike!
All right, party people. It's Thursday night. Gridiron Grinder time. I'm Ryan. With me, as always, is my buddy James. We're just a couple of dudes hanging out, talking about what's going on in the NFL each week. This is episode 197. We're dangerously close to 200 here. And yeah, for tonight, we're going to kick things off with Name That Stadium, just like we always do. Then we're going to do a recap of the news from this past week. After that, we're going to start our four-part series of giving you guys the AFC and NFC East Outlook. So we're going to cover those 8 teams this week. Next week, we'll go to the South, then we'll go to the West, and we'll close it off with the North. That way, we get to finish with the Lions. And so, unless one of us gets sick or some shit comes up, I think that gives us like 1 week left before the regular season, which will probably start our power rankings and game picks and whatever else. So, yeah. But then for the last part of tonight, obviously, we'll do our question of the week. And so, yeah, man, with all that being said, how is it going tonight, James? And we're back. So I think, James, what that means is whenever you're ready, do a little name that stadium action for us, my man.
All right, as you can see, I'm traveling around different stadiums, host NFL games, preseason, regular season, playoffs, the whole plethora, international game, wherever. First person guesses right. Extra special shout out. Bookmark it. You can play it back and watch how smart you are. I'm not going to insult anyone this week because it's just the same three people I'm insulting anyways. So,
Yes.
Last week I was at Ford Field, and I chose Ford Field because the surprise of my power rankings or my top 10 fantasy rankings had Jared Goff up higher than I actually initially thought he would be when I did it, and I was like, hey, you know what, Ford Field, why not?
Yeah. Any chance you can get, right?
Exactly.
Cool, man. All right. Well, hey, we don't have to beat the dead horse with Name That Stadium. Let's just move on over and do our recap of the past week. And so, I was looking at our notes from this episode last year, and it was kind of strange because, for whatever reason, this week last year had a shit ton of news.
Mm-hmm.
Players signing with teams that had just been sitting out there in free agency for a while, guys getting massive contract extensions, all sorts of stuff happened this time last year. And there's a few things that we're going to hit in the news, but not nearly as much as like this particular week of last year. And so I just thought that was kind of strange. But um, same as last year, though, the Hall of Fame game is tonight, so football is officially back. The game is on right now, happening as we speak. I'm not watching it just because my setup doesn't really bode well for that. But you got the Houston Texans playing the Chicago Bears, and it's going to be a bunch of scrubs and some scrubs behind them. I would assume, but um, you know, it's football, so it's better than no football.
This is true. And it's kind of fitting that it's the Texans and the Bears for the Hall of Fame game because two of the players of this Hall of Fame class was a Bear or was a Texan, Andre Johnson, most notably from the Texans. He's a phenomenal receiver there. If didn't he do it with 17 different quarterbacks in
Oh my
14
gosh.
seasons?
Yeah, he had
Like,
so many different quarter. Well, he had Matt Schaub for a while. Matt Schaub was stable for him for a while, but yeah, he had a ton of quarterbacks other than Schaub.
yeah, and he just did it consistently year in and year out. He played 14 seasons for in the league. Half of them were 1,000 yard seasons, including 3 seasons of more than 1,500 yards. Um, and I think he was like, no, he wasn't. I was like, wait, no, he came in
12 different quarterbacks threw him a pass.
yeah. So
Yeah,
he had
12 quarterbacks, 12 seasons.
he had 1,062 career receptions and 70 touchdowns.
Yeah, I mean that's almost 100 a year
Yeah,
with, a bunch of random ass guys at quarterback.
exactly. And so his best years were obviously when he had Shaw there for 2008 and 2009. But I think outside that, like he didn't have. I think that was the only years he was consistent with the quarterback.
Gotcha.
And then you have Devin Hester, who nobody nobody that watches football or watches the Super Bowl can forget. Like one of the biggest moments of the Super Bowl was the is it kickoff return opening. He took the opening kickoff
Yeah,
to the house, and
against the
that's
Colts.
against the Colts in what Super Bowl was that?
Oh
That
man, that
was
had to be like, I don't know, that was like 2006 or
41,
something.
Super Bowl 41, I think 40. Oh, let me look it up. I think it was 41.
Okay.
So it was what like they're on what 50.
I mean, dude, it was almost 20 years ago, man. It was like 18 years ago.
My screen is fucking doing
It's all
weird
right.
shit. So it was 2007. So it was at the end of the 2006 season.
Gotcha.
Um, and in fact, that was one of two touchdowns that the Bears scored in that game. So you had those two players going into the Hall of Fame, and like the you had others. You had like Dwight Freeney who played for the Colts, and Julius Peppers who played for Carolina and
Chicago, didn't he?
Chicago.
Didn't he finish his career with Chicago?
Yeah, I was thinking Green Bay, but
Oh man, I guess no. Maybe I don't know. Maybe it
I
was
thought it was
Green Bay.
Green Bay. Yeah. Oh, so he
Oh,
played. He
oh, he
did.
played for both.
He played for both.
He
So
played for both.
he played
All
for
right.
Carolina, went to the Bears,
Yeah,
went from the Bears to Green Bay, and then went back to
yeah,
Carolina.
yeah.
So yeah. So there's another Bear going in the Hall of Fame. You had Patrick Willis, who was a
49er.
49er. Randy Gradisher, who was a Bronco. Steve McMichael, who was also a Bear,
Okay.
and he was a two-time Pro Bowler with the Bears. He was part of that the Super Bowl championship defense in was that 84, 85 Super Bowl. That's it. So those are people that are going into the Hall of Fame this weekend. Um, but it's fitting that it's Chicago, and then you could kind of pick which other one because Chicago has three. So it's nice that they have two teams that have players going to Hall of Fame.
Yeah.
I think I don't think there's many Houston Texans in the Hall of Fame.
No, I mean it.
They've only been around since '90s.
Yeah, and they really have struggled for a long time. I mean, man, I don't know. Other than Andre Johnson.
So they've been around since 2002, and
Yeah, I mean they had David Carr, they had Dominic Davis. Neither of those guys. Owen Daniels was a pretty good tight end, but not Hall of Fame worthy. Um, and I don't
so
even know on
they have
defense.
so this Andre Johnson is their second player to go in the Hall of Fame. I didn't even realize that. He only played for their. It's I don't count him as a Houston Texans because he only played their 1 year.
Who's that?
Uh, uh, my screen keeps shutting off. I think there's a problem with my cable. So I apologize. It's keeping flickering on me, but it's Ed Reed. Um,
Ed Reed? Oh yeah, you can't count that.
yeah, I mean, heck, they only have two players in their Ring of Honor. They have J.J. Watt and Andre Johnson. Those
Yeah,
are the only two players in the Ring of Honor, and they have one true Hall of Famer.
Yeah, I
So
mean J.J. Watt will get there, but whenever his time is to be voted in or whatever.
yeah, so Andre Johnson was the first player to be inducted in the Hall of Fame, primarily for his time with the Texans.
Yeah,
So that's it makes complete sense that they picked Houston for the other team, because I mean that's a big honor to get your first player into the Hall of Fame, or
yeah,
first true player into the Hall of Fame.
yeah. That's cool. Symbolism, or not really symbolism, but you know what I mean. It's
Yeah,
a special,
it's
special.
it's symbolic. It's
Yeah.
it's it's symbolic. That's a decent word, but it's a special moment for the franchise, really.
All right. Well, you want me to skim through some news from NFL.com?
Well, there were a couple things that I saw surprising.
We got some
DeAndre
injury
Hopkins
stuff
is
going on.
DeAndre Hopkins is hurt again.
Yep. Surprise, surprise.
Hurt his knee, out 4 to 6 weeks. Surprise, surprise, that happens every year. Um, so if he's out 4 to 6 weeks, he somewhere between week 1 and week 4. Excuse me, he'll come back.
Yeah, and he's been known to play and just never practice because he's always got some kind of injury bug something. So it's tough. I don't know how much of that's maybe him just not wanting to practice, and how much is it is he got a legit injury and he just fights his way through for the games. It could be a combination of the two. So I don't really know.
Yeah, so he suffered knee injury during practice, and the initial diagnosis suggests that he'll miss 4 to 6 weeks. So that from now, so that's like 5 weeks is week 1, right?
Hmm.
So he could be back week 1, week somewhere between week 1 and 3. It looks like.
Yeah.
Um, and Clyde Edwards-Helaire has been missing Chiefs practice recently,
Okay.
and he the team said he was missing it because of an illness, but he took to X, or whatever
Yeah. Formerly known as
that
Twitter.
website is talked about how he had PTSD.
Oh, geez. From winning so many Super Bowls.
and no, it's two. So when he was at LSU in 2018, he said he and a friend found themselves in what's called a self-defense situation. He didn't
Okay.
elaborate on it, but that happened to be um, the date when two LSU football players were trying to sell an electronic item, when one of those two were fatally shot.
Oh, man. Okay.
I'm sorry, one of those two fatally shot an 18-year-old that was trying to rob them.
Gotcha.
Um, so
So he's got some trauma.
so he's got some trauma, and I mean that could explain some things with how I'm
You're
not
trying to
saying,
find reasons why he burned you in fantasy football so many years ago.
but let's be honest, like he was highly touted coming out of college, and he's really just been a bust.
Yeah, he was phenomenal in that last year at LSU.
Yeah. So, but anyways, that's why he's missing practice. Which, I mean, heck, good for him, get his mental health right and everything, and
Yeah.
take care of himself. But um, just out there, because for those fantasy people looking for a handcuff for Pacheco, maybe look elsewhere, and not the Hilaire, because you don't know what's it gonna go, what's gonna stem from this, and where he's gonna be on the depth chart this year.
Gotcha.
Those are the two initial things I saw when I just looking at the news.
Yeah,
I'm
so
sure.
I mean, we got a couple quarterback things. We've got Geno Smith with sort of like a mystery injury. They're saying he's going to undergo some imaging after missing two straight practices, but the team hasn't stated exactly what's going on with him. So there's, a little bit of mystery there. Then Justin Herbert, he's got a plantar fascia injury to his right foot. Looks
Hmm.
like he's going to miss all of preseason, but is expected to be ready for week one. Now, obviously, a guy like him probably doesn't need to play the preseason, but he does have a new coach, new offense that is coming in there. And so it wouldn't hurt for him to have some reps, right? But, I'm sure he'll be fine for week one and it'll be all right.
Yeah. So then you had the fight at um, the Steelers camp.
Yeah, tell me about that because I didn't see that one.
So what I had saw was Fields and Russ got into a fight, but there was apparently I'm about to click play on the video for it, but apparently Fields was hit late or pushed to the ground. The linebacker Brandon L Landon, that's a terrible name. Landon Roberts shoved Fields at the end of a read option play, and the offensive lineman took umbrage with the shove
Okay.
and started pushing and shoving, and it looks like everybody all like, oh shit, like it looks like the entire offense and defense got into a little skirmish.
All right.
And like people that were behind the play were coming in, and it was just crazy. And then they had a ref at practice, and the ref threw a yellow flag. It's like, no shit. like you really, yeah, you need the ref at practice to to coach you up and everything. But I mean, shit, like he didn't throw the flag until after like they
It
were
was going
fighting.
down.
So it's like, are you kidding me?
Yeah.
That's a penalty? Like come on, like seriously, dude, come on.
Yeah. All out brawl on the both sides of the ball. Yeah.
Yeah, and it looks like in the video, it looks like it was like the entire team basically. But so yeah, I had heard it as or I read the first thing I read was Fields and Wilson got into a fight, and I didn't see the actual article till now, and I text you about it.
Gotcha. All right. So we got Tristan Wirfs, the offensive
Oh
tackle
yeah,
for the Buccaneers. Dude got paid, James.
paid like
Five
paid like
year,
butter.
$140 million deal. I don't know what the guaranteed is on it, but
Eighty-eight
good for him,
point
dude.
two
He's badass.
88.24 million guaranteed.
Nice. Nice. Good for him, dude. Good for him. 25 years old, man. Some big money.
Yeah, so if it's 5 years, 140 million, just over 140, call it 140. So that's what,
Close
like
to 30 a year, man.
28 million a year?
Yeah, pretty
No.
badass.
Yeah, 28 million a year. So I mean that's like a $10 million raise because he was entering the final year of his contract and was set to make 18 million this year.
Good for him. Good for him. One of the best linemen in the game. So he
Mhm.
deserves it.
Yeah.
Probably the only other thing that I saw was Frank Gore getting inducted into the 49ers, Hall of Fame, the 49ers Hall of Fame. I mean, he is, a Hall of Fame guy, but I don't know. Has he been voted into the Hall of Fame yet, or is his time still coming? Because it's going to happen. I mean, the
Uh,
dude played forever. I don't think he's
I
in
think
yet.
he was. I think he was last year or 2 years ago.
Let's
Um,
see.
17 Pro. He's is coming because he retired in 2020, so you have to be out 5 years.
Yeah, okay, so yeah, he'll be eligible in 2026 for the Hall of
Yeah.
Fame, which he will definitely he will get in. But yeah, for now he's in the 49ers Hall of Fame. See, that's where it's weird because like a lot of teams call it like a Ring of Honor, right? They're
Hmm.
calling it their team Hall of Fame, which, it just trips me up there for a second, but it's all good, man.
Yeah, yeah, it is, but they have so many fucking phenomenal players that you can see why they would just call it their Hall of Fame because you can't fit them anymore on their
Oh yeah.
ring around the stadium.
Yeah. No, I got you. Yeah. Montana, Steve Young, Jerry Rice, yada 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 on and on and on and on and on and on.
So, um, apparently Donta Foreman had a scare in practice this week.
Okay.
Um, he he took a direct blow to the head that resulted in neck pain, so he was
Ooh.
immobilized and transported to the hospital. But apparently, he was released later, and the X-rays and CT scan came back negative for him, which is good.
Yeah.
Gosh, what the hell's going on with this fucking thing?
Issues. Issues.
Yeah, and I have multiple websites, web page, like multiple, not tabs, but multiple, um, like open windows. There
Different
we go.
browsers. Yeah.
Yeah, and now the screen's not even turning on, but my computer thinks it's fucking on. Jesus Christ, what
Yeah.
the hell's going on?
You're having fun.
Yeah, it's starting to piss me off. I think I have a loose
Fun with
connection somewhere.
technology.
I have a loose connection somewhere. I don't feel like finding it,
Yeah.
so I just deal.
The show must go on.
There's one I saw. It was on the roundup. Oh, where the fuck is it?
I don't know. I
I'm not finding it. It was like the headline was. I can't even find that. Bucks up, outside linebacker to get MRI. Steeler wide receiver in walking boot was the headline. So let me see. Tampa Bay and Pittsburgh. Because then you open it up and it's just like everything that fucking happened.
don't know.
Oh, Tariq Cohen informed the Jets that he's retiring.
Yeah.
Yaya Diaby was carted off practice Thursday, suffering a high ankle sprain. Um, so that was the outside linebacker, and of course, there's not even a Roman Wilson of the Steelers, so
Okay.
it's not even worthwhile to
Gotcha.
to fucking mention. That's about all I'm seeing on the news.
Yeah, I got nothing else.
Let me take a glance at. So before we go into our NFC AFC East preview. Can, can I ask you a question, or should it be for question of the week about my preseason rant that I started?
Oh, we can do it now.
So we were talking about it before the show, um, and with with preseason or the Hall of Fame game being tonight, how preseason doesn't really matter. And then I was curious as I was looking at it, and if you include the Hall of Fame game and the total preseason games, there's 49 preseason games, and 26 of them are on some sort of fucking national TV live. You have the ones on NFL Network, and like every week basically NFL Network's showing like 15 games, or 11 games or some ridiculous amount. But you have a Prime Video one, you have CBS, NBC, and in week 3 of the preseason, and you have in week 2 Fox, and then the rest on the NFL Network. And we were talking about it. Like, I understand, like, broadcasting it in the local region, in the regional areas, like they do, because those people in that area kind of are, they're interested in what's going on with their team. And in the past, like, you could get a sense of what's going on in the team, but why the fuck are so many preseason games that mean nothing, that you're looking at fourth, fifth string guys that are trying to make the team play an entire fucking game?
Yeah.
Why is it on national TV? It makes no fucking sense. Over half of them are on national TV, and like the ones that like NFL Network chose to air don't even fucking make sense.
Yeah, I think part of it is probably just the time of year, right? Like sports wise, maybe there's not a lot going on. So it's like, okay, let's do it. Maybe some of it's like, okay, we gotta, uh, a lot of these networks are like jockeying for like setting the tone of, hey, we got football, it's coming. We're gonna start showing a game now, and set the tone of in a couple weeks, you come and watch my channel, man. But I don't know, man. I'm with you. I think the preseason has turned into total garbage. It's hard to watch. There used to be a time where you would see the starters for at least a certain amount of drives almost every game. And then it was like the third game, they almost always played through the first half. And then even beyond them, you had a lot of fringe players in the past that got like real good tangible time. And you could kind of figure out, holy shit, this team is stacked on the defensive line. Or, oh
Mm-hmm.
man, this team has like so many wide receivers, or whatever the case may be. Now, because they just like quickly go to the backups of the backups of the backups, it's just very hard to kind of get like a grip of really what's going on with that team. And I know the coaches get it because they see these guys in practice every day, every week, whatever. But for us as fans, man, it makes preseason like really it's hard to watch, man.
Well, yeah, and like I was saying, like I don't understand some of their choices for the game that's on NFL Network. Like, who the fuck wants to watch preseason of Carolina and New England? Or like on Friday next week, you had the choice basically between Atlanta, Miami, Houston, Pittsburgh, and Philadelphia, Baltimore. Like, why would you pick Houston, Pittsburgh of those on that list?
I don't know. I mean, Houston's got some hype. Pittsburgh's always good, but
Philadelphia, Baltimore?
I mean, yeah, that would be the more premier game out of the group, right?
Yeah, or like I mean, or well, on Sunday next week, like both games are on the NFL Network, and I understand, putting a 10 o'clock and a 1:30 game during the week, but then like, oh nope, that just killed it. I was like, well, wait a minute, maybe they're trying to show each team at least once on the NFL Network, right? But then it killed it in week 2 when they have in week 1 they have Pittsburgh, um, and Buffalo on And then week 2 they have Buffalo at Pittsburgh again. Not Buffalo Pittsburgh playing each other week 1, and they have Vegas on a game in week 1. It, I just don't get it. Like,
Yeah, yeah,
and like maybe the thing that makes sense is like having like the Prime Video, CBS, NBC, and Fox have have a game, because that's kind of like their warm up
yeah.
for the regular
I
season.
could get that right. Yeah, they got to get their reps in too. It makes sense.
Yeah, and like the ESPN broadcasters do the Hall of Fame game, which is their warm up, and then Fox, CBS, NBC. Like that makes sense. Like having one game for that like number one group. But then like if you're gonna do that, like they have an entire list. Like they have what, like 5 crews, 6 crews on for CBS and Fox. Why are they only doing one game? Why don't they have 5 or 6 games? Why don't they have games in like the regular time slots that they air games? Like
All
why
good
is
questions, my man.
why is NBC?
And one of our, 10 million viewers is going to see this and feel inspired to talk to his dad that works at one of these television stations, and they're going to give us some answers. So next week, I would expect that we're probably going to have a couple thousand comments on the video that we got to sift through. One of them is going to address this particular question.
I expect that.
Yeah, and hopefully, our tech team, they work out some of the AI and they'll just be able to like get right to the answer for us, because obviously our time is so valuable. We're never going to go through all those comments, right? So, yeah. AI.
Yeah, you know, especially since like half those comments will probably be some guys telling us how much of an idiot we are.
Yeah. And that's where the artificial intelligence helps too, right? Because, some of that stuff, they know it's going to bruise our egos and they're just going to like push it out of the way so that you and I don't have to even see it. And we're going to get all these like fluffy, oh, Gridiron Grinder's amazing. Ah, James, man, you're just on top of it. Ryan, oh my goodness, this is like, you guys are the best, and we'll feel good. And then every show will feel good going into it. It'll be better and it'll just like snowball into this amazing thing. And then the next thing you know, we'll be like Mr. Beast. We'll have our own candy bar, some Feastables. We'll compete with them. You know, I don't know, dude. It'll be crazy.
I just saw this article, uh, betting for like the NFL season and like season long props and a couple picks for each team, and I just want to see what they did with Detroit. And it's not, of course, it's not in fucking alphabetical order.
Okay.
So, all right. So the Vegas over under is 10.5 wins. For the Lions. According to ESPN, under 10.5 wins.
Mm,
Whoever wrote this article for ESPN, and I'll
well,
get the name
fuck
in a second.
them.
Jamison Williams over 675.5 yards.
Over.
Over. Week 1 bet. Lions -3.5 hosting the Rams. Rams.
I think we get them. I think we're a better team, and we beat them in the playoffs. I think they're a worse team, and we beat them in the playoffs. So,
Right, and here's the thing. He even goes further to say that on the money line, he would pick the Rams too.
yeah, fuck him. He's a hater.
Who is this motherfucker?
Yeah, our AI is going to be all over this guy. Our AI is going to burn down his AI.
I don't even know who this fucker is. Tyler Fol Fulcom?
Yeah, well, that's why. They got so many randoms that this guy's just off base and he's trying to like make waves and knows that everybody's finally loving the Lions. So he's like, I'm gonna rain on their parade so I get attention. Well, you know what, Tyler? Fuck you.
Anyways, all right. Now we can move on to our
AFC NFC East
main
Outlook.
main event.
Okay. All right. Let's do it. So, James, in past years, I would put a lot of this information in a spreadsheet. Who were the additions, who were the subtractions, who they drafted, coach changes, all that kind of stuff. And this year I did not do that because time was of the essence and it didn't work out for me. But I do have a great website article that I've been referencing, which is Bleacher Report's off-season grades for each NFL team. And that's another change. Normally, I would look at an NFL article for the NFL.com article for this, but the Bleacher Report one came up quicker and looked good for me, and so I stuck with it. But I did update not my model because here we go again. Lineups is a little bit slacking this time of year too, apparently, and I didn't trust a lot of the ratings that they had in there yet. And sometimes they don't really get like solid until right before the season starts. But so I didn't go and do my full blown model. Instead, I did sort of like a skinny version of the model where I created a rating for each team. And then I went in and looking at the schedule, I went in and I updated the records. And so a lot of the records from like the super early that we did a few weeks ago, I have updated to be more on par with how I actually rate these teams. And there were some surprises on some of those teams. We'll see if we get to any of them as we go through the East tonight. But um, you know, in past segments here, I think we would always start with the AFC East. We did it alphabetical, and that would put us with the Buffalo Bills is our first team to look at here.
All right. So the Bills, and I'm
The Bills. I
trying to
mean, they
pull up
lost some big
your
name guys,
Bleacher
man.
Report, trying to pull up your Bleacher Report article,
Oh, here,
and
I'll send it to you. I'll send it to you. Yeah, that way we're on the same sheet of music. Yeah, let me do that because it's a good article, and I was actually going to ask you if you had the NFL.com one that we used to look at, or if you had a different one you were going with. But this Bleacher Report article is pretty legit. I've followed or not followed, but watched Bleacher Report and read Bleacher Report for years. They always do a lot of good shit.
yeah, I was looking at I was looking for it. I had looked at a couple articles earlier in the week, and now not every half of them aren't available.
Okay.
Uh,
Yeah, NFL.com used to always have kind of like a running article that would update like the key additions, key, departures, all that kind of stuff. And we used to use that as like kind of our basis, but I don't know. I don't know why I didn't find that one as quickly as I usually do. And I just, the Bleacher Report one looked pretty legit. So,
yeah, so let me see. I may have just actually found the NFL.com one.
okay. Yeah, and we can go
Uh,
either way. We can do both, because
no,
they should be
this
pretty much the same, but,
this one just the NFL.com one only really grades the trades.
mm, yeah, let's do Bleacher Report, man. So they got like a button down at the bottom where you can do previous or next. And since we're doing it, by AFC East alphabetical, if you hit next a few times, it'll take you to the Bills.
I was already there
Okay. Yeah,
because
and so
I
yeah.
know what the fuck I'm doing.
Okay, James, or is it our AI that is helping you?
My
See, we gotta
assistant,
we
my
gotta keep
assist,
saying AI, James, because YouTube will pick up on that and they'll just like skyrocket us to the top of the search.
Yeah, my AI assistant heard us talking about saying we were doing the Bills, and just fucking took it right to the Bills on that article. I got a Google search with like all the news about the Buffalo Bills popping up, and shit. This AI we got going on is no joke.
Yeah, it's custom, by the way, custom. We don't need no chat GTP or whatever it is.
So, anyways, key additions for the Bills this year, or re-signings, because they didn't parse it out between a free agent signing or a re-signing. So they signed Curtis Samuel, Mac Hollins, Nicholas Morrow. I'm sorry, linebacker Nicholas Morrow, defensive line Austin Johnson, edge Devontae Smoot, safety Mike Edwards, another wide receiver Marquez Valdez-Scantling, edge AJ Epenza, defensive tackle Daquan Jones, and safety Taylor Rapp. They lost Stephon Diggs, safety Jordan Pryor, center Mitch Morris, wide receiver Gabe Davis, edge Leonard Floyd, linebacker Tyrell Dodson, cornerback Dane Jackson, defensive tackle Tim Settle, defensive tackle Puna Ford, and safety Micah Hyde.
It's a lot of starters that they lost, man.
Good Lord, that's a lot of starters that they lost.
Yeah.
Wow.
They're going to be begging their draft class, notably wide receiver Keon Coleman, safety Cole Bishop, defensive lineman Dwayne Carter, and maybe you would even include running back Ray Davis, even though he's going to be behind what's his face, James Cook. But man, you talk about like a total changing of the guard.
So
what's that?
James Cook is the second string runner back behind Josh Allen. So.
Yeah. So Bleacher Report puts him Ray Davis as a key addition, and I mean, he could be key for depth, but yeah, this team now 100% runs through Josh Allen, apparently on both sides of the ball.
Yeah, because the thing of it is, and they kind of had to, and this is what we were talking about last year, is like that window's going to be closing once you give Josh Allen the money, because from last year to this year, his cap hit nearly doubled.
Yeah.
From this year to next year, it does double. It goes from just under 31 or 30.5 million this year to just under 61 million next year. So they couldn't give out these contracts that these starters were looking for and deserved. So that was the key to them losing a lot of players. And there's creative things you can do with the cap. We always say the cap is fake. Not everybody subscribes to the model. I like the fact that Brandon Beane is not subscribing to the cap is fake, and I'll just add void years at the end and screw my team over in the future, where we're paying half the cap and dead cap hit because we didn't know couldn't figure out what the fuck we were doing.
Well, it's a little bit traditional, right? It's hey, we're not going to leverage the future because Josh Allen's going to be here for a long time, and so we are going to rely on drafting and developing guys to replace these veterans that it just doesn't make sense for us to keep paying.
Right, but at some point, you have to take that step. If they're not going to take that step to the Super Bowl, why are they even paying Josh Allen? Why not just break it down? And
so you're saying they should go all in leverage and bring back all these guys like Diggs and Poyer and everything, and just say, hey, we got to keep max leveraging until we win a Super Bowl or bust.
Yeah, it's that's more the Rams model. What the Rams did was they spent all the fucking money in the world and
traded every first round pick for like a decade.
Yeah, and got those players, got those pieces together, and went to 2 Super Bowls and won 1 Super Bowl. And like that's what Buffalo needs. Buffalo, like over the past few years, like the seasons for Buffalo if they're not winning the Super Bowl, then it's been a bust. With Josh Allen and giving Josh Allen having a 30 million or a 60 million cap hit for Josh Allen, if you don't win a Super Bowl where you're paying that kind of money, there's no fucking point to paying that much money.
Yeah, I think they're in trouble. I think they're in trouble. I think they got significantly worse.
Mm-hmm.
You can always say, hey, there's hope that some of these young guys are going to step up and breathe some life into the team, which maybe they weren't getting out of some of these veterans. But damn, dude, they just lost so many starters. It's just too
Mm-hmm.
much. And, I know Josh Allen's going to keep them competitive, but to say that they could win the Super Bowl this year to me is like fucking crazy. Like, I mean, he's got to fully put the team on his shoulders, which that's asking anybody too much. So
Yeah, and also, what's his face? Sean
McDermott,
McDermott. I was like, it's a Mick. Anyways, there's
yeah,
so many McMillans and McVeighs and Michael. There's so many fucking Seans in the league that have an M last name that it gets confusing. I think McDermott's done after this year. I don't see
yeah,
this team. I don't see the Bills making the playoffs this year when it gets down to paper.
okay,
I initially had them before, I just did a quick analysis of it. And I was like, they'll probably go like 11-6, 10-7, 11-6, 12-5, something like that. When I looked at their schedule and when I kind of look into it and look at all the players that they lost and how much this team is taking a step back this year, I see them going 9-8.
okay, yeah. I was just looking at my updated model, and so mine. Let's see. I actually it didn't change much. I had them at 10-7, and I still have them at 10-7. I didn't go through and do the tiebreaker, but they would be fighting for the last wild card spot in the AFC. And so, and they'd be fighting with Miami and Pittsburgh, which also have 10 wins. So, I don't know. They don't play Pittsburgh. And then I've got them splitting with Miami. So I'd have to dig deep to figure out the tiebreaker. But if they made the playoffs, it would be like by the hair of the chinny chin chin in my most updated model.
Yeah, so I have in mine I have for the AFC you need 10-7. If they were in the NFC at 9-8, they'd be tied. They looking at what I have, they'd be tied for the last wild card. Nope, they wouldn't make the wild card in either league. Actually, looking at it.
Yeah, I guess at 10 wins they would have gotten in on the NFC side for me for sure. But yeah, it's a little stiffer in the AFC.
No, I wouldn't take that back. They would be tied for the last wild card spot, and then I'd have to go through the tiebreakers, and I'm
Okay.
not gonna do that exercise because it's not relevant. I think you have to be 10-7 to make the playoffs in the AFC this year, and
Yeah, and you
I
got them
just
one short.
I got them one short.
And I got them right there. So they're, you know, it's going to be an uphill battle, is what we're getting at for Buffalo.
Yeah, it's an extreme uphill battle for them, but I mean
They've
this
got a
is
good coach, great quarterback, but man, can they pull a rabbit out of their hat? I don't know. If they get in the playoffs, I don't see them making a deep run. So,
yeah, I agree 100% there.
all right. So next up, alphabetically, we're looking at the Miami Dolphins, my man.
All right, so the Miami Dolphins had a pretty good draft with drafting Chop Robinson. He kind of fell to them, and they drafted
Yeah, sons
tackle
of bitches, but that's all right.
Patrick Paul, and then I don't understand how Jalen Wright, running back, is a key draft addition for them. That's they have they have a chain, they
Maybe
have
Mostert,
Mostert,
you know,
they have
yeah, Mostert's got the injury history, so maybe they just needed that depth, knowing that Mike McDaniel likes to run the shit out of the ball. But they
possibly,
lost some big name guys too, man.
but
Christian Wilkins, fuck, man. I was
they lost.
shocked as all hell that they didn't bring him back, man.
Right. They lost some big names. First their additions. They brought in Kendall Fuller, cornerback, center Aaron Brewer, safety Jordan Poyer, linebacker Jordan Brooks, tight end Jonnu Smith, defensive tackle T. Air Tart, linebacker Anthony Walker, OBJ,
Yeah, I mean, uh,
Braxton Berrios, both wide receivers, and Isaiah Wynn on the offensive line. They did lose Wilkins at defensive tackle, Deshaun Elliott. They lost cornerback Xavier Howard, edge Andrew Van Ginkel, linebacker Jerome Baker, guard Robert Hunt, wide receiver Cedric Wilson, and edge Emmanuel Agba. So,
yeah, I think they're going the wrong way. Maybe not quite as bad as Buffalo, but I don't
see,
think that they had a very good offseason, man.
I will disagree with you there. I think, yeah, Xavier Howard, Kendall Fuller is a downgrade from Xavier Howard, but
I think,
Jordan
I look at,
Poyer
yeah, I
upgrade on
mean, here,
Deshaun Elliott.
I mean, I guess let me just say it like this: is to me, Christian Wilkins was like one of the top guys at his position. You don't let him go, man. And he was like just coming into his own. I get it; he's going to cost you a lot of money, but man, to let him leave, and then at the same time, Van Ginkel's gone, Emmanuel Ogba's gone. They kind of mitigated it by drafting Chop, but he's going to be a rookie, man. So I mean, all right, yeah. So not as bad as Buffalo, for sure.
Not as
Not as
bad,
bad as Buffalo.
not as bad as Buffalo. I kind of yeah, maybe a little bit worse, but I mean, that offense is freaking ridiculously high powered.
Yeah,
Um,
no, yeah, no. And the offense is still in great shape. The offense didn't take. And I guess here's the thing with the defense. Maybe I'm blowing it out of proportion here because last year the Vic Fangio experiment did not work with them. And we talked about it last year that Fangio's a phenomenal defensive coordinator, but he went in with guys that did not fit his scheme, and there was an expectation that it was going to take some time to
mhm.
adjust. The whole year went by, they never adjusted. It just did not work. It was a square peg in a round hole. Fangio's gone, but they're still overhauling the defense. And so whatever they're doing, I mean, it could be for a good reason, right? Because those guys have just underperformed anyhow.
Yeah, but also when you're putting up 50 points a game, you can afford to give up 40.
Uh, all right. So yeah, you're saying, hey, they're focused on winning with offense and fuck everything else.
Yeah, and uh, they so in our way too early projections, which really was like a month ago, um, I had them at 11-6 and winning the AFC East. I didn't change my projections, even doing a further deep dive in their roster and trying to get my modeling going. My projections stayed the same at 11-6 for Miami. Um, I agree with you. They did lose some key pieces, maybe got a little bit worse. But the good news for them is they get to play 2 games against the New England Patriots and 2 games against the New York Jets every year.
Yeah. Um, yeah. So I actually stayed the same with them, which is, in fact, it's going to be fairly boring in the NFC East side for me. But yeah, I had them at 10-7 before. I still got them at 10-7. What did you say you had them at?
11-6.
Okay, and what did you said? Oh crap! Hang on, my fucking formatting's all messed up here.
I kept it the same.
Let me just do something real quick. All right, you had Miami at 11-6, and what'd you have Buffalo at again?
9-8.
Okay, gotcha. I just like keeping these on here for future reference.
Yeah, I probably should with yours, but I'm too
Not a big
lazy.
deal. I mean, I'm gonna keep it. So as long as one of us has it, we're in good shape. All right, so then, yeah, I guess next up is the New England Patriots.
Yes, the New England Patriots. Now, I love, love, love Drake May. I feel bad
Okay.
for him, the situation he's going into.
Okay.
They also drafted Jalen Polk and offensive tackle Caden Wallace. Like we talked about, the Bleacher Report gave them an A. I think we gave them a C for their draft. Um, Off-season additions or re-signings: KJ Osborne, Sion Takitaki, running back Antonio Gibson, tight end Austin Hooper, tackle
Chukwuma
Chukwuma
Okorafor.
Okorafor, quarterback Jacoby Brissett. He's really just he's going to be
Who
that.
they're saying may start week 1.
Yeah,
They don't want
he's
to
going to be
rush
that
Drake
bridge.
May.
Wide receiver Kendrick Bourne. And this is really killing me. So, wide receiver Kendrick Bourne, safety Kyle Duggar, tight end Hunter Henry, which I think that was just a
Yeah, they
re-signing.
brought him back. Yeah.
Offensive lineman Mike Onwenu, edge Josh Uche. Didn't really lose that many people. They lost Mike Gesicki, a tight end,
Who
linebacker
wasn't
Mac
doing
Wilson,
anything for him.
who wasn't doing anything. Mac Wilson, they lost Devonta Parker, who wasn't doing anything. DB Jalen Mills, Mac Jones.
No,
Who cares?
I think they had a pretty good offseason, to be honest. I liked, all the guys they got rid of made sense. They weren't lighting the world on fire. Trent Brown was probably the best guy in the bunch, and he was getting hurt a lot. And so,
Yeah.
when you look at who they added, not super flashy, but they added a lot of guys that should contribute in different ways, right? Like Antonio Gibson. He's going to give them the complement to Ramondre Stevenson. Austin Hooper is going to give them the 1-2 punch at tight end that they wanted with Mike Gesicki that they didn't get. Brissett is that veteran quarterback that could start the season while they ease Drake May into it if they want to. And then I think they brought back Kendrick Bourne, which he was good for them. KJ Osborne, he was a contributor in Minnesota. Not great, but here's the thing: they're expecting Jalen Polk to somehow do something, which I don't know. New England has had problems drafting and developing wide receivers forever,
Mm-hmm.
and the new regime is not off to much better of a start just yet, and that's fine. But
Yeah.
overall, they got
But
some contributors.
that the big thing that we didn't mention, because we only hit the players, and you got to remember, like, you have first year coach Jared Mayo, who's taking over for a Hall of Famer,
Yep.
and it generally doesn't go well for the immediate coach after a Hall of Fame coach.
Yeah.
Generally, there's some instances where it has. The big one I can think of is San Francisco, but the difference is with San Francisco you still had, and I'm gonna say Tom Brady because it's New England we're talking about. You still would have had Tom Brady, and when you had Montana when
Hmm.
Walsh retired, you had Montana, and then you had a
Steve Young.
good you had Steve Young right after that, and then like you had players where the coach could easily slide in and take over and not really change much because you had the players. New England doesn't have the players, and that's a recipe for failure for a first year coach that is taking over for a Hall of Famer.
Yeah, I mean, I would say that their their depth in the trenches is probably a lot better than people give them credit for.
Hmm.
And I think that that's good because it helps give them a baseline. But yeah, I mean, there is something to be desired on this roster.
Yeah. And so I initially had them at 9-8.
Oh, fuck, you had them that high? Whew.
So a little insight in my way early projections. I look at the schedule and I just do the schedule
Yeah,
really.
just
And
quick. Just
like
snap. Boom, boom, boom.
my snap, who's going to win that game? Who's going to win that game? And then when it comes down to the season projections, I actually I'm starting to develop my model for my game picks, and they took a huge step back
Okay.
because I had them at 9-8. I now have them at 3-14.
We're spot on. I had them at 2-15. I moved them to 3-14. And honestly, you know, when I look at the schedule, shit, man, they start 3 out of 4 on the road. I feel like that could set a horrible tone for things to come for them. And
Hmm.
so, 3-14, it's low. That bar is low. And, I don't know what Kraft is expecting of Gerard Mayo and company, but, um, you know, it's a beatable bar. It just also is that low for a reason, right? So,
Hmm.
yeah, they got some work to do.
They got a lot of work to do.
All right, well, that takes us to the New York Jets. Let's talk
All right,
about Aaron Rodgers. Meh, meh, meh.
all right. So the New York Jets and their key additions, re-signings, they Hassan Reddick, they got Mike Williams from the Chargers, offensive tackle Tyron Smith, offensive tackle Morgan Moses, offensive guard John Simpson, like redo your
I mean,
entire offensive line.
yeah, they stacked that offensive line, man.
They got signed cornerback Isaiah Olivier, however it's pronounced. They signed punter. They got a new punter and a new kicker too. Can't forget them, Thomas Morstead and Greg the Leg.
Greg the Leg.
Uh, Departures wise, they lost guard Lake and Tomlinson, who kind of
Run
had
blocker. Phenomenal run blocker, but they need a pass blocker.
exactly safety Jordan Whitehead, edge Bryce Huff, defensive tackle Quentin Jefferson, and Mount
Mount
Becton,
Becton.
who when on the field is a phenomenal offensive tackle, but dealt with a lot of injuries.
Yeah, never quite got to where they wanted him, but that's okay.
The only notable draft pick they put 3 on here. I don't think the other 2 are notable draft picks for him. If you want, you can touch on them.
No,
But they drafted Illuminaweda Fashanu,
Fashanu. Yeah.
and I like that. I like that draft pick. I don't like the rest of it.
Yeah, I
They
mean,
improved.
Corley at wide receiver and Allen at running back, those guys are so far down the depth chart that there's got to be massive injuries for them to get any playing time, especially for Corley at wide receiver. I mean,
Hmm.
fuck, they've got so many wide receiver weapons for Aaron Rodgers there. But yeah, the big thing is he's got like a fortress of an offensive line now, and depth to go with it. So if anybody gets hurt, they've got 2, 3 guys waiting that are capable starters. I mean, this is like the best case scenario for them. If there's a fluke Achilles or something that happens again, they're fucked. But, they've like
But that's
mitigated their risk of like him getting sacked 15 times a game for sure.
well, and that's the thing. Last year, the plethora of quarterbacks that played for the Jets were sacked a total of 64 times. So they've worked on the offensive line, which is
Yeah.
what they needed. They're hoping, and I'm hedging I'm hedging my projections for the Jets because I have to see Rodgers out there on the field and
Sure.
being able to stand right and coming back fully from the Achilles. I and that's what their season boils down to. They have a lot of talent. They've had for years they've had phenomenal defensive talent, phenomenal offensive talent, except for the quarterback position and the offensive line.
Yeah, so it looks like you had them at 7-10 before. Where do you have them now?
So I gave their quarterback position a little bit of bump on it. Like my snap projection, 7-10. I'm hedging on Rodgers. I have him as a third tier quarterback right now, not top tier,
Sure.
because I have to see him do it. I only gave them a bump to and they're actually my only team. No, one of two teams. No, my only team. The only team that we're going to talk about tonight that I gave a bump up in wins
Okay.
is the Jets to 9-8.
9-8. Okay. Yeah, so I had them at 12-5 before, and I kept them there. I like what I'm seeing with the Jets. I think the stage is set. It's like what we were wanting to see last year that never happened. They've got a great defense. They've got phenomenal weapons for Rodgers to throw to. They got Brees Hall at running back, and now they have a stacked offensive line. I think the Jets are a legit playoff team. I don't know that they're a Super Bowl team, but I think a healthy Rodgers gets them into the playoffs at least.
No, and we talked about it last year. I was like, when they traded for Rodgers with all the talent they had there, I
Yeah,
was like, man, that puts them instantly into Super Bowl contention. If Rodgers wouldn't have gotten hurt last year and like they had, a 9-8, 10-7 season, we're on the edge of the playoffs, I would have said that would have been a successful season for the Jets. And I probably would have been super high on them this year. And I can easily see them being in the top tier teams in the AFC. But my problem is really Aaron Rodgers and him being healthy and them being able to
yeah.
actually protect him.
See him put it together. Yeah,
Yeah.
I got you, my man. I got you. All right, well, that takes us through the AFC East. Why don't we go over to the NFC East? And alphabetically, that gives us Dallas as our first team to take a look at.
So Dallas is a team that failed free agency. Failed. Big time fucking app. Like, I think it was like a month and a half into free agency before they made their first move. Their additions are they brought Zeke back, they brought Eric Kendricks in at linebacker, they have Rico Dowdell at running back, offensive tackle Chuma Edoga, and cornerback Jordan Lewis. They drafted Tyler Guyton. I love that draft pick for them. Edge, Marshawn Nealon. I still like that. I like that draft pick too.
Yeah.
And I really love the Tyler Guyton draft pick because if I remember correctly, and I don't have this in my notes, but they traded back and still got Guyton. So now their departures. They lost edge Dorrance Armstrong, center Tyler Biadasz,
Theodosh, yeah, which he was great for them. I'm surprised they let
yeah.
him go.
Defensive lineman Neville Gallimore, wide receiver Michael Gallup, defensive line Jonathan Hankins, running back Tony Pollard, who in a 1-2 punch is phenomenal. Obviously wasn't able to do it on his own, and offensive tackle Tyron Smith. Like I said, they didn't really come into free agency, and it seems like they're gearing up for is having to pay Dak, which is a mistake.
Yeah, that could be part of it. Yeah, I could see that. Yeah, I think that it's I think the stage is set where it's hey, Dak and McCarthy,
Mm-hmm.
you either make a deep playoff run now, or we're going to threaten to blow this bitch up. Because
I really think they should blow it
yeah,
up. Like
and I don't think Jerry Jones will ever blow it up, but I think that he's putting them both on the hot seat, saying, "Now's your time, guys, and if you don't do it now, I'll do some crazy shit." And Jerry will do crazy shit, but he won't do that crazy a shit.
Yeah, and Jones has done some crazy ass fucking shit.
Yeah,
Like he bought the team. When he bought the team, the first thing he did was fire the head coach and brought in Jimmy Johnson from college,
yeah, and then fired Jimmy Johnson.
and it ended up firing Jimmy Johnson and brought in Wade Phillips.
Yeah, everybody fucking loved Jimmy Johnson. They won a Super Bowl. Just so stupid. But
Yeah,
and the
also
one thing that's not on here with the transactions is the loss of Dan Quinn at defensive coordinator, right? I mean, that's going to be a huge switch to Mike Zimmer on defense. And to be honest, I'm not really thrilled about that. Zimmer, before he was the head coach of the Vikings, was a great defensive coordinator. When he became a head coach, his Vikings defense went to dog shit. And I just am worried that, can he come in and have that kind of magic that Dan Quinn had with these guys? I don't see it happening.
yeah, and also with bringing in Jimmy Johnson, you forget that they traded away, like one of the first things they did also was traded away Herschel Walker
Oh, yeah.
for what amounted to basically Emmitt Smith, Russell Maryland, Kevin Smith, and Darren Woodson. It was they traded him to Minnesota for 5 players and 6 future draft picks.
Yeah.
And if any of those 5 players ended up being cut by the Cowboys, they would get a draft pick instead.
Uh,
This is a crazy. This is like
yeah, Jimmy's World or whatever they call it, or Jerry's World, Jimmy's World, Jerry's World.
all right. So they got to the Cowboys. They got linebacker Jesse Solomon, linebacker David Howard, cornerback Isaac Holt, defensive end Alex Stewart. They got Minnesota's 1990 first round pick, 1990 second round pick, 1996 round pick, 1991 first round pick, because but they didn't cut Solomon, so they kept Solomon on the team. They kept Howard. Wait a minute. Hold on. Did they cut all the players?
I don't know, dude.
Oh, no. A couple of the players were still on the team. Anyways, Minnesota's 92 first round pick. Minnesota's 92 second round pick, because they traded away one of the players.
Yeah, I mean, they kind of fleeced Minnesota is what it comes down to.
Yeah. So ultimately, with those picks, they drafted Emmitt Smith.
That worked out big time.
Which, traded some picks to trade up to number 17 overall to get Emmitt Smith. They traded some of the picks for Stan Smagala. Russell Maryland was some kind of used as part of a deal to get the number 1 overall pick in the 1991 draft to draft defensive tackle Russell Maryland. They got running back Alonzo Highsmith and some trades. Traded the first round pick to get some picks and got Darren Woodson, worked out, and cornerback Kevin Smith, Clayton Holmes. Going back to Minnesota, they ended up getting Dallas's 3rd round pick, the Chargers in 90, the Chargers' 5th round pick in 90, Dallas's 10th round pick in 1990.
Oh, yeah, they had a lot of rounds, man.
Dallas's 3rd round pick in 1991, and Herschel Walker. And apparently, I didn't realize this, but it was a 3-team trade.
Okay.
Because the Chargers got running back Darren Nelson.
Gotcha.
For their 5th round pick, which then went to Minnesota.
and then back to Dallas because they cut up a bunch of guys. No, I don't know. Yeah, it sounds like a lot of them went back to Dallas.
Yeah. So it's just all the shit. They basically, end result of the trade, 3 Super Bowls for Dallas, 0 Super Bowl appearances for Minnesota. So the end result of the trade doesn't even list Herschel Walker as going to Minnesota. What the? He played for Minnesota for like 1, 2, 3, like 2.5 years.
Okay.
Oh, that was an in-season trade. Interesting. I digress. What
All
were we
right. So
talking
yeah, I
about?
think you had him at what 11 wins last time. Did that change for you?
So I had them last time at 11-6. They're my second team of the night. I missed them when I looked at it. Yep. I I took them up 1 win to 12-5.
Okay. So James, I had him at 10-7, getting a wild card, being second in the division. After I went through and revamped this, they had a decent shakeup here. I moved them to 13-4, winning the division. Just some of this is the way the schedule worked out because I actually have Philadelphia rated as a better team,
Mm-hmm.
but Dallas just kind of got like the lucky end of the draw with the schedule to like get a couple more wins over Philly when I did it over again. So, um, you know, so a little change up here. I mean, not crazy, right? When you think that Dallas won 12 games last year, but um, I don't know, man. I'm still just not a huge fan of Dak and McCarthy, and so when I'm throwing out 13 numbers, it just kind of it puts a bad taste in my mouth. But that's what my model's given me, and I'm sticking to the model, even though I don't necessarily like these guys.
Yeah, I hear you. I'm I think they don't, or they have a need for a quarterback, and they shouldn't give Dak the massive extension
Yeah,
he's
just pay
looking
Cooper
for.
Rush like 6 million a year and let him be the guy and blow the team up, and then you can go out and draft a quarterback next year, and it'll be fine. Well, I mean, they do still have Trey Lance, right? What's going on with
Mhm.
him? Has he done shit to develop by now? I don't know, man.
I forgot Trey Lance was still still there. Um, I completely forgot about that. Maybe that's because that will go down as one of the dumbest fucking trades in the NFL draft.
Yeah, that was pretty bad, man. Yeah. I mean, I don't think the 49ers really care with the way they landed Brock Purdy, right? Because they're just like, you guys want to throw Trey Lance in our face? Oh, we made Mr. Irrelevant a fucking Super Bowl quarterback.
Yeah.
Only the 49ers, dude. Only the fucking 49ers.
Yeah, only the 49ers.
All right. Next up is the Giants
Oh, that's right. The Giants are in between. I forgot the Giants were in the fucking.
they're even a team. Yeah, forgot that they're even a team.
All right, let's talk about their. Let's go to their key additions, which some of these I'm going to skip some of them because they don't make sense. Like, how the fuck is Drew Lock a key fucking addition?
Uh,
And they picked up Edge Brian Burns,
yeah,
offensive
that was a
tackle,
massive addition.
massive addition. Offensive tackle Jermaine Eluemunor.
Ulamore.
Wide receiver Isaiah McKenzie, DB Jalen Mills, defensive line Jordan Phillips, wide receiver Allen Robinson's still in the league?
He's got the talent, man. He just hasn't put it together in like 5 years, man.
I just want to look up something on this. And he hasn't. It's been more than that. So he's going into his 10th season. Wow.
Yeah. I mean, he was good in Jacksonville, and that was it.
He had some decent numbers with Chicago. He had 2 good years with Chicago. He had the 1 year in 2015 where he put up 1,400 yards with in Jacksonville,
Yeah.
but he had two 1,200-yard seasons
All right.
in Chicago.
With fucking Mitch the bitch Trubisky.
Yeah, 19 and 20. He had 2 good years and hasn't done it since then. So you're
Yeah.
about right, about 5 years. But I mean, in
But yeah, at least he
21,
got a
played
couple
12
outside of
games.
Jacksonville.
Like, but to be fair, he hasn't played last year. Last year was his first full season he played when he was in Pittsburgh. He played in all 17 games since 2020.
Okay.
And then before that, like,
To be
I mean, his
fair.
2 years, and then like he only played in 13 games in 2018, 1 game in 2017. So he hasn't had put together that many full seasons.
Well, fucking shame on him, dude. Fucking work your ass out more in the off season, get a great fucking trainer, and be fucking healthy, okay? Don't be out there smoking the weed like all the young kids do and get hurt, okay?
Yeah,
I mean,
and
that's obviously way off base from what happened, but whatever. I liked Allen Robinson a lot, man. I liked him a
mhm.
lot.
Yeah, and then in 2018, he didn't have have a full season. He put up almost 800 yards, but in the one playoff game he played in with Chicago in 2018, he had 10 receptions for 143 yards.
Shining star.
So he's put it together a little bit, just
Yeah.
not. I always forget that Pittsburgh made the fucking playoffs last year.
Yes, they did. Yes, they did. Sneaky fucking bastards. Uh, all right. So, yeah, what did you think about the rest of their offseason? I mean, obviously the Malik Neighbors draft pick, that was kind of, people thought they were going to go
Well,
quarterback and replace
I didn't.
Danny
I didn't.
Dimes.
I got distracted with the Allen Robinson. I was surprised he was still in the league. Because he didn't do shit last year. Like I thought
Yeah,
he
and,
was out.
and, and I guess,
So they
Singletary
also
coming
picked
in
up,
to replace Saquon.
yeah, and they picked up guard John Runyon, DB Darnay Holmes, and linebacker Isaiah Simmons. Lost Saquon, Xavier McKinney at safety, defensive line Ashawn Robinson, quarterback doesn't matter, Tyrod Taylor, defensive line Jihad Ward doesn't matter. Draft picks, I liked the Neighbors draft pick. I kind of thought they should have traded up and drafted a quarterback, but I still like Neighbors as a player
Yeah, I
and
think
giving.
it's because you got to pay him, right? Like they need an out on Daniel Jones before they do that. And so
Yeah,
this way, at least you bring in a wide receiver and you develop him. And if it doesn't work with Daniel Jones, at least the next quarterback has a proven wide receiver, hopefully, if Neighbors works out.
yeah. They drafted safety Tyler Newman and like the other two. That's not really that important.
Yeah,
Offensively, weapons wise, they've upgraded. They upgraded the offensive line a little bit, with the exception, like I think if you're talking prime Saquon, and it's sad to say
no,
prime
dude,
because he's only
dude,
going to his like
dude,
sixth year.
dude. Singletary had a great year in Houston last year. Okay, they're they're bringing Singletary in for 5.5 million a year. Saquon got an average of what, like over 12 million a year with Philly. Like they're getting Singletary will do just fine for them because the whole point of this is that Daniel Jones needs to be the man for that offense, and he
Mm-hmm.
needs to get it done with Malik Neighbors and whoever else at wide receiver, and then hand the ball off maybe 45% of the time to Singletary and whoever else. So I
Right,
like what they
right.
did
No,
at
no, no.
running
I'm not.
back.
I'm not arguing with you. Where I was going with it, like if you're talking prime Saquon, like like his like 2 or 3 good seasons he's had.
Yeah, which
If you're
were
talking about
really
that,
like it was really 2 seasons, but yeah,
if you're talking about that Saquon
yeah,
comparing it to Singletary, then it's a downgrade. But you're talking about Saquon over his career and his injury history and
yeah,
everything, and Singletary's an upgrade. Singletary is reliable. You don't need you,
yeah.
and that's where I was going with it. You don't need the flashy running back. You're giving the flashy receivers.
Yeah, I think they were good to get out from under Saquon. I think he was
Yeah,
just going to hold him back,
100%.
but this opens the team up. It makes everybody else have to be a contributor.
Hmm.
And
So
typically teams do better when they play as a team instead of like, just keep feeding Saquon. Okay, well they tried doing that last year without Daniel Jones playing and it didn't do shit.
if they had a competent quarterback, the Giants could be a playoff team this year.
Yeah.
If they had Daniel Jones from was it 2 years ago, first year
Yeah, but I don't
with
know, dude. He had
Dayball,
700 rushing yards that year. That wasn't like something that could be repeated with him, I don't think.
right? But what I'm saying is, if you had Daniel Jones of that year,
Yeah.
took that Daniel Jones and put it on the team, you're talking you're talking a playoff team, guaranteed playoff team, possibly winning the division, possibly going to the Super Bowl.
Shit,
That's
man.
how
Yeah,
that's
you're
how
high
good
on him. Yeah.
this team could be with that quarterback. You're
Okay.
talking Daniel Jones over his career. You're talking about somewhere around 500 for the team.
All right. Well, you are,
I
yeah.
had
And
them.
so you had him at 9-8, right? Where do you have him at now?
I have them at 7-10,
7-10. Okay.
and it's really what's like I said, what's dragging this team down is Daniel Jones.
All right. So you dropped him 2 games. I had him at 7-10. I dropped him to 4-13. I think, and honestly, I think a lot of that is based on the schedule. I think that they have some tough games at home, like Baltimore, and I think like they got Cincinnati at home, they got Dallas at home, they got Tampa Bay, they got Philly. I mean, obviously Philly because of division, whatever. But um, man, I think that stumps them from like their most likely wins is those home
Mhm.
games, and then any game on the road is tough, right? But I could just see it being a recipe for disaster for the Giants. And so the 4-13, when I first saw it, I thought, looks kind of low because I like Dable a lot. But I could see it. I could see it collapsing for him this year, man.
Yeah, I could easily see that. I just I just like they play Washington twice for God's sakes.
Yeah, yeah, and I mean, Washington. To be fair, rookie quarterback, mobile quarterback. Some of that, could be a little bit of a surprise here and there because
Hmm.
Washington actually had a really good offseason. And so I think, I'm not saying Washington's going to light the world on fire, but I think they could surprise a few people.
Yeah, and they also have um last game of the year they have Philadelphia, and in theory, Philadelphia could have their playoff seeding wrapped up
Yeah,
going into that
throw me
game.
game.
And also Jalen Hurst doesn't really. We'll talk about that when we get to Philadelphia, which is next.
Yeah, which is right now.
All right, so Philadelphia,
The Eagles.
the Eagles drafted cornerback, and a cornerback. I'm sorry, no, the third one was they drafted. They got 2 of the top 3 cornerbacks in this draft class with
Yeah.
Quinion Mitchell and Cooper DeJean. They also got edge Jalex Hunt, who it's a fairly good draft pick for them. Draft grade, Bleacher Report has it as an A+. I think I had it as a B+ or an A- because
Yeah, we weren't like totally thrilled that they doubled down at cornerback when they've got
that and they don't
fucking
because they don't
Slay and Bradbury. But yeah, I mean, When you're such a stacked team, you just take who's ever best available, I guess, and that's just how it worked out.
So so they key additions: Saquon Barkley, linebacker Zach Bond, linebacker Orrin Burks, wide receiver Paris Campbell, DB
Yeah,
CJ
Gardner
Gardner
Johnson's
Johnson,
back.
motherfucker, offensive lineman Matt Hennessy, edge Bryce Huff, wide receiver Devontae Parker, just going to get lost in that wide receiver room. Linebacker Devin White, edge Brandon Graham, cornerback Avante Maddox. I'm not gonna do it this in that the order that's on there, but they lost Baird at safety. Who cares? Marcus Mariota, edge Hassan Reddick, Swift, but then they lost wide receiver Quez Watkins, wide receiver Zacchaeus, and guard Shua Opeta. The reason I skipped the two retirements is they lost defensive lineman Fletcher Cox, but they drafted his replacement 2 years ago, and I'm drawing a blank on the guy motherfucker's name.
Well, they drafted Jalen Carter last year, but then they did Jordan Davis the year or two before. And
Yeah,
Jordan Davis has struggled with weight and he's struggled on the field. Jalen Carter looked like an immediate fucking star last year, man.
yeah, and at this point in his career, Fletcher Cox really was a rotational guy.
Yeah, I mean, he was a stud still when he played, but he was not a three down guy. You're right.
Um, and then they also lost center Jason Kelsey.
Yeah, that's a big loss.
But here's the thing about it is they have a center that was on the team for, and I'm drawing a blank on the guy's name. I hold on, I have it. They drafted in 22 Cam Jurgens. So Travis Kelsey. Jason Kelsey is working in the scouting department for the Philadelphia Eagles, and he in fact scouted um, Cam Jurgens and went to Howie Roseman and said,
Get
you
this
know what,
guy.
get this guy. He's the guy
You
that will
get
be
this son bitch.
I'll be here 2-3 years, whatever. I'll be here a little bit more time. I'll teach him the position, and you'll have somebody that can take over for me. So I'm not as worried about the anchoring their offensive line or the center on that offensive line after reading about Jurgens and also reading that how Kelsey
Yeah.
selected him to
And I
be
mean,
his
and
replacement.
Jurgens has four fucking studs on, two on each side of him. So,
Uh,
he's going into a great position to finally assume the starting role.
exactly. So in our way too early picks, I had them at 15-2.
Okay.
I wish I wouldn't have said this because I could have played a joke. I already said I took one or two teams off. I didn't, and that was
Yeah.
it. I thought as I was saying this is that after reading up on it and doing analysis and putting it in my model, I have them at 17-0. I'm just kidding. I have them actually going 13-4.
I was like, what the fuck is going on here, James? I'm like in the twilight zone now.
Yeah, I have them at 13-4. I took them back 2 games. Just kind of when I look at their when I went into their schedule and like I tried to put some factors in there
Yeah.
like how they can improve their playoff positioning and what they can do. And I'm still playing with my model. And late season it might come into effect, especially week weeks
Yeah.
14 through 17 because the playoff picture is going to play a big role in
Oh,
in
yeah. Oh,
if
yeah.
if the Colts are pressing for the division, week 17 is going to be like a huge game for the Colts, and it might not be as big a game for. I'm sorry,
Yeah.
not the Colts. That
Philly.
Pittsburgh in week 15,
Oh, yeah.
or Dallas, depending on where Dallas is, and how close they are. If Dallas can't really overcome the deficit they have and with Philly, and just little stuff like that. And they end the season at the Giants, which might be a home against the Giants, which might be actually an irrelevant game in the whole playoff picture.
So you're doing a lot of hedging, and I get that because there's a lot of scenarios that can play out, right?
Hmm.
So I had Philly at 14-3, winning the division in the super early. I dropped them down to 11-6. And so this was one of the big swings as I updated things here. And I would say this, when I went back and I looked at the schedule with their ratings and compared them to the other ratings of the teams they're playing, I thought, holy shit, man, almost all of their fucking away games are against playoff teams.
Hmm.
Tampa Bay, Cincinnati, Dallas, the Rams, fucking Baltimore. And so, like, all of a sudden, when my revised model came out at 11-6, I thought, I can't really balk at that, man, because they do have some very tough games that they got to overcome. And so,
Hmm.
so I'm okay with 11-6, but I do really like Philly. Um, I would say, just a sidebar on Philly is because we're talking about Saquon with the Giants and now he's with the Eagles. Okay, Saquon last year had 962 rushing yards. DeAndre Swift had 1,049 with the Eagles. Do you think Saquon ends up beating that 1,049 mark that Swift put up last year? And I ask that because we know Jalen Hurts runs the ball a lot. And Swift was like a man on a fucking mission after Detroit shipped him out and had a fucking career year. So I don't think that like Saquon going to the Eagles is like McCaffrey going to the 49ers. I think it's
Yeah.
still going to be temper your expectations with Saquon Barkley is all I'm getting at.
Well, I think the other question with Saquon is he going to play a full season?
Yeah, I mean, we're hypothetically saying, hey, he's got a full year in Philly. Is this a career year or is it, a run of the mill year, like good but not great because he's a role player on a team, not the focal point of a team? Because let's be real, he is not the focal point of this team. You got
Hmm.
Jalen Hurts, AJ Brown, fucking Devonta Smith, Dallas Goedert. You know, Saquon is like he's like fifth, sixth on the pegging order, man.
And don't they still have Boston Scott on the team too?
Well, yeah, I love me some Boston Scott, but I think he's finally gone.
Yeah, he
Maybe
is
not.
finally done.
Maybe
They
not.
have they have Kenneth Gainwell now.
Yeah, and
Will
Gainwell's
Shipley.
good. Gainwell's a fan favorite. They like him a lot, but um, all I'm getting at is let's not go crazy about Saquon. And I was kind of surprised that Philly paid him that much when you think about where he's at on the pecking order, man.
Surprised that Philly paid him that much. That surprised that anybody paid Saquon that much besides like a desperate team, and was not a desperate team.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, here's the thing. You know, just looking at it from like the flip side here for a second, when you think about how great their offensive line is, if they were to totally revamp that team and become a run first team that wanted to do a lot of play action, I think Saquon would be one of the top running backs in the league in terms of rushing yards.
Uh huh.
But there's no point for them to do that with Jalen Hurts, AJ Brown, Devonta Smith, and Dallas Goedert. So,
Especially they just gave Jalen Hurts a big
yeah,
contract too, so that it's clear that he's going to be that that Saquon or whoever they bring in at running back is really going to be second fiddle.
yep. I mean, he's not even second fiddle. The running game is second fiddle to the passing game.
Yeah, that's what I meant.
Yeah.
And even at running back, he's second fiddle to Jalen Hurts.
And then honestly, here's the thing that bothers me even more now that I'm thinking about it is that, if you're Philly, you really want a guy that's a grinder that can fucking milk the clock at the end of the game when you have the lead.
Hmm.
Saquon in his career, minus his first year with Dable, the first year with Dable, he ran with power.
Hmm.
That's it,
But that
dude.
was a contract year for him.
Yeah, and Dable basically made him do it, right?
Hmm.
Other than that, he's let me dance 50 times in the backfield until I get my perfect fucking lane to make my move. I don't see him being the guy that's going to give you those fucking hard-nosed yards in the fourth quarter because he's going to be, oh, I'm too good to just go out there and abuse my body for the team.
Hmm.
He's a first three-quarter guy, not a fourth quarter guy. That's my problem with him.
Yeah, exactly.
All right, so that takes us to our last team
So
of the night.
you had them at, what did you say you had them at?
Oh shit, dude, I had him low, man. So I mean, in our super early, I had him at 7-10, and I dropped him down to 4-13. Oh,
Philadelphia?
I'm sorry. I'm looking at the Giants. We're talking, yeah, we're talking Philly. We're not talking
I
Saquon
was
or the
like,
Giants.
damn, I
No,
don't remember you saying
I
that.
fucking smoked him. I smoked him. No, I had him at 14-3, winning the division. Dropped him to 11-6.
I
And remember, I was saying part of the
was
reason
looking
I
at the
dropped
Dallas.
him is because I looked at how hard their playoff slate is.
Yeah.
They're playing almost all. I mean, their away slate is. They're playing almost all playoff teams on the road this year, man.
And you had Dallas, so you had Dallas winning the division?
Yeah, so they flipped with Dallas, and they're close. Dallas is at 13, they're at 11, but yeah, they did a little flip on my rankings here.
All right. So then that brings us to the Washington Commanders.
Yes, it does.
So their additions, re-signings, guard Nick Allegretti, edge Dorrance Armstrong, center Tyler Vidas, safety Jeremy Chin, running back Austin Eckler, edge Dante Fowler Jr., linebacker Frankie Louvu, quarterback Marcus Mariota, linebacker Bobby Wagner, wide receiver Jamison Crowder, which I think was just a re-signing, and offensive tackle Cornelius Lucas. They really didn't lose much. They lost linebacker Cody Barton, quarterback Jacoby Brissett, guard.
Sadiq Charles.
Thank you. I was like, how do I say that? Safety Cameron Curl, cornerback Kendall Fuller, running back Antonio Gibson, and kicker Joey Sly. They drafted Jaden Daniels and a bunch of other people that don't
Yeah,
matter.
Jerzon Newton, I thought was a great draft pick. I know a lot of people were high on Mike Sanistril, however you say his name. Um, And then, like looking at some of it, so at running back, let's just look at that for a second. So Gibson's out. He went to New England. They brought in Eckler. But I think the story here, because Eckler is starting to like age as a running back,
Mm-hmm.
is that they've got Brian Robinson. And so you actually have a fairly economical running back room with a power back and a receiving back with Eckler to complement him, but it's all going to depend on how much Jaden Daniels is going to run the ball for this team because he was a dual threat guy in college. And so I think that they're postured well, and they're postured well economically for that dynamic.
Yeah, and also the thing I like about Marcus Mariota as their backup quarterback is I think Mariota's style, when Mariota can do it,
Yeah, it'll
is
complement Jaden Daniels. Yeah.
it'll complement Jaden Daniels, and you won't really have to change the offense much um, between the two. Jacoby Brissett just, in theory, could play that, but but I think
Yeah, he's
Mariota
not a
plays that
scrambler like that.
right. And the other thing with bringing in Mariota, if you think about it, Mariota was a high draft pick, and if Jaden Daniels has struggles, Mariota had some struggles early on in his career, and Mariota can
Yeah, you
kind
can
of
relate to him.
relate to him, and coach him through that, and help him out,
Yeah.
and really for the team is better because Jacoby Brissett wasn't a high draft pick, has had struggles, but Jacoby Brissett has also had a lot of
Oh
bad
yeah.
luck, and so
And let me just twist it here too, is that they brought in Dan Quinn at head coach. Look at these signings. Dorrance Armstrong from the Cowboys, Tyler Biadasz from the Cowboys, and then not just from the Cowboys. Okay, Bobby Wagner formerly from, Quinn in the Seahawks.
Uh-huh.
And then Frankie Louvu at linebacker, highly underrated from Carolina. I think Dan Quinn has this team postured to be highly, highly competitive on defense right out of the gate.
I think he does. I think um so when we went with our super early, I had them at 3-14. Now this is the team I didn't want to talk about when I talked about it because I could see Washington's range. A couple factors
Yeah,
here and there
yeah.
in my model has
It can
them
swing it a lot.
has them at 0 wins or has them at 10 wins.
Yeah, and 10 seems steep, right? But yeah,
Mhm.
because it, the roster does have some talent. If Jaden Daniels can have traction in year one, I mean, hypothetically, they could have a Houston kind of like rebound, man.
Yeah. So you have Eckler who can catch the ball in the backfield. Eckler who can
Oh, and they have great wide receivers too.
who can block. You have Terry McLaurin and Jahan Dotson at wide receiver. I don't know much about Luke McCaffrey, but then you have Jamison Crowder who's a pro role. You have Zach Ertz who, when healthy on the field, is a reliable tight end. You built up the offensive line a little bit to protect Jaden
Yep,
Daniels.
yep.
Um, so if Jaden Daniels has 3/4 of the season that
CJ
shit,
Stroud had.
CJ Stroud had last year, the Commanders could win the division if he has 3/4 of that season
Yeah,
because
they
of
could shake some shit up, dude.
how good that defense is lining up to be. And they brought in they brought in people on the defense that know Quinn's system or have played together because like Luvu and Chin
Yep.
played in Carolina. They know each other. They're comfortable with each other. Wagner, who's going to be the
Still super
quarterback of the
savvy. Yep.
super savvy, knows Quinn's system. They made all the right moves to set the team up for success.
Yeah.
They need some things to go their way for them to have that initial success. I'm looking at a year, 2 years from now, them being a playoff team.
Yeah. Yeah, I think they could get ahead of schedule and make the playoffs next year. Not this year, but next year.
Right. This year, I think they still have struggles. And I haven't gone through the tiebreakers because I have two teams with this identical record tying for the number one overall pick.
Sure.
I haven't gone through to to the tiebreakers yet on it to figure out which team I end up giving the number one overall pick. So I had them at 3 and 14, and I actually dropped them down a game
Okay.
to 2 and 15, and
Gotcha.
I'm hedging there because I don't want to get ahead of myself. On paper, I
Yeah.
look at this team
Yeah.
and I see a team that can be super fucking successful.
Yeah.
But also, you got to consider that I really dislike the New York Giants, I really dislike the Dallas Cowboys, and I really dislike the Philadelphia Eagles. For some reason, all three of those teams, like those are like three of my four least favorite teams in the league.
Mm-hmm.
Therefore, I don't want to get ahead of myself and overhype Washington
Yeah.
like I have known to in the past. Get on these teams where I'm like, oh my gosh, like
Yeah,
these teams
and
are
I'll
not.
tell you what, man. In the super early, I had Washington at 1 and 16,
Mm-hmm.
and I had them riding the struggle bus hard. In my updated rankings, I've got them going 6 and 11, having a better year than the Giants. And when I look at their schedule, I think they actually have a handful of very winnable home games. I don't like that they start 3 out of 4 on the road. All right, we are back once again, my friends. And so we were just talking about the Washington Commanders. James, you put them to 2-15, so you dropped them down. I moved them up from 1-16 to 6-11. Probably like the biggest change out of any of the teams in my model. And we were talking about Dan Quinn hopefully boosting that defense, that offense having really pieces all around the board, just needing Jaden Daniels to develop. And this could be, not a playoff team this year, but I think they could surprise some people. And that's where I had them at 6-11, my man.
So one thing I have in my notes, and I wanna look. I had looked into this. So in my notes, I had about Quinn with when he took over Atlanta. They had won 10 total games the 2 years prior to him taking over, and by the second year there, he had Atlanta in the Super Bowl.
Yep,
Of course, they
imploded.
lost, they imploded, but it's still the point is they have a chance, and they look like they're getting the right pieces in place um to
Yeah,
have
and,
a
and,
good
and,
team.
and I hope he does it differently with Washington, which on paper right now it looks like he's doing. So, and what
Mhm.
I mean by that is with Atlanta, they had Matt Ryan and they were very much an offensive team. Dan Quinn came in as a defensive minded guy, but he spent a lot of time kind of like fostering that offense to be like the focal point of that team. And
Mhm.
you just look at that defense. That defense was dog shit, always was dog shit. It has always been dog shit. With Washington, we know they have a good defensive line. They've now added two great linebackers. They've got pieces where it's almost like Dan Quinn could make them a winner on defense. And if he gets the right offensive coordinator to help develop Jaden Daniels, the offense will just organically get it done. But focus on winning with defense because that's what Dan Quinn does. And I hope that's his mentality going in is a retread with Washington.
Yeah, and the thing about the you mentioned the coordinators, and I was just looking up because I forgot who they hired as their offensive coordinator. They hired Cliff Kingsbury as their offensive coordinator, but for they have um, Cliff Kingsbury, and running backs coach Anthony Lynn. They have David Blau as the assistant quarterbacks coach. I don't know who
Uh,
the hell Pavita
David
Pritchard is.
Blau, the old Lions quarterback.
Yeah,
Okay. Yeah.
I don't know who Pavita Pritchard is.
Yeah, I don't know.
Uh, Apparently he played college in Stanford. And quarterback wide receivers coach at Stanford. He was the quarterbacks coach last year as well, so they kept him there. So obviously they thought he did something good, but we'll see. I noticed David Blau as the assistant quarterbacks
Yeah,
coach.
quarterbacks coach. Yeah.
Assistant
And hey, that's
assistant
fine.
quarterbacks coach.
Good for him. He's sticking in the league in some capacity, right?
Yeah, exactly. He's sticking the league in some capacity. I
I
mean,
liked him. It just the way he left Detroit was, his butthole hurt and he wasn't happy and, that sucks, but that's just the business part of it, right? So,
I don't even remember how it being. Oh, that's right. I remember it now. They got they released him for Sudfeld.
yeah, and I mean, I think it was like we were giving him an option to drop him back down to the practice squad or something, and he had an opportunity to like latch on with another team, and so he was just like, "No, fuck you guys," and it was
Right,
like,
but he latch on with the other team on their practice squad.
Correct. But he was taking the chance thinking he could have made the active roster. And it
There's
was,
no way he had a chance to
yeah.
make
And
the active
so
roster
either way, it
against
was like, hey,
Minnesota.
man, it's all good, dude. Like, it just, he was he was one of those guys where, like, you saw him practice and, you saw a little bit here and there and you were like, oh, man, hey, maybe this guy could be like a career backup or something. And, there was like some flashes and then it just was like, there's really not. And so it's okay. But, maybe the intelligence is there and just the physical ability wasn't, and he can have a successful coaching career.
Yeah, hopefully.
Yeah. But yeah,
That's
so
all the best, though.
anyhow, I'm hopeful for Washington. I like Dan Quinn a lot, but my ratings were like mute to him is a factor, right? Like I did all this, ran the records, and then looked at it after the fact and was like, okay, I can get behind it.
Yeah, I got you.
So that's all I got on the NFC AFC Outlook, man. You got any closing thoughts on that?
I don't think so. I just think, like, the one thing, like, and we just talked about it, like, it's such a range for Washington
Yeah.
that I think that's they have probably the biggest range of what they can do this year.
I agree with you, dude. I agree with you. Yeah, some years it's like every year we have one team that we're like, wow, it's hard to put a pin in them. They could be all over the place. Washington's that team this year.
Exactly.
All right, well, hey, let's go on to the question of the week. And while I'm teeing it up, I'll let you know I sent you a link in the chat. And this is for an article I found online with the projected Madden 25 team ratings. And so they're not official yet, but um, as I was going, I like to build my model with lineups and the player ratings. And so I'm always looking at different kind of like, what are the coaches' ratings? What are these players' ratings? What are this? What are that? And I love it when I see stuff for Madden, right? Because I've played Madden for years and it's cool. But um, when I pulled this article and I was looking at it, I want you to point out, and this is just right at the top, they've got the Arizona Cardinals rated as a 74 overall. And I'm just trying to skim here real quick because I think there is the Giants at a 72, and that's it. They are the second lowest rated team. And so, like I said, this is not official by any means.
Patriots are tied with them at 74.
It's 74,
Wait, yeah, you said Arizona is 74.
70. Oh, yeah, yeah,
Arizona
yeah, 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 yeah,
74.
yeah.
The
The
Patriots are
Giants are
tied with them at
72.
74. The Giants are 72.
So they're tied for second or third, with the Patriots. So my question of the week is that do you think that this projection, whoever the hell these people are, is doing a disservice to the Cardinals, man? Because I know you're not a big fan of Kyler Murray, okay? Um, here, let me just get some of my notes going here. Um, but this is a team that won 4 games last year, right? With fucking Josh Dobbs and Kyler Murray coming in late. Did they really only win 4 games? I don't know why I thought they won a few more than 4, but
I
either
thought they won a
way,
few more than 4 as well. I have that same recollection as you.
yeah.
So
Either way, 4-13. Oh, maybe it's because they stayed in so many games. They were like one score away from so many games because Josh Dobbs was like nobody thought he was going to keep him relevant. But all I'm saying is, I think that they've been coached very well. And I know that talent-wise, they've got some deficiencies, but to have them in the bottom three, I thought was extreme. And so I wanted your opinion to see, did you agree with that? Or do you think they are dog shit and they're like on the fringe of the fucking dumpster fire? I mean, I think Kyler Murray alone, whether or not he's studying the playbook, probably puts him a couple spots outside of the dumpster fire.
So there's two things to look at. I think they have a schedule that they could have wins they could have get a few wins. Um, I think going into the season, looking at their roster, that on the fringe of the dumpster fire is about right.
Yeah, and so I've got them tied for the fifth worst team record wise. But I also have them playing in a fucking brutal division.
Hmm.
And so I think that if you gave them an average schedule, they would probably have maybe two or three more wins.
Right. And I'm not saying, like, when you look at the schedule, I'm just looking solely at their roster.
Yeah.
And they have an old washed up running back.
Yep, but
They have
he's a 1,000-yard runner when
they have
healthy.
they have an unknown at wide receiver that's going to be their number one wide receiver.
Yeah,
Yes, he
could
is,
be a fucking stud, but he's a rookie.
but he's a rookie. They don't have really they don't really have a tight end.
No, they got a tight end. They got what's his face, Trey, whatever. You know, we were talking
Again,
about him in our sleepers of fantasy, man. So they got a tight
yeah,
end
that's
and
right.
maybe a wide receiver
Their
and maybe a
offensive line
running back.
their offensive line is so.
Yeah, but you got a mobile quarterback.
Right. Then go to their defense.
Yep, Buda
And
Baker,
that
and that's it.
exactly. Wait, they still have Buda Baker?
I
There he
thought
is.
they did.
I was like, I'm not seeing him. Like, do they still have him? I thought they did. They have Buda Baker, and that's it. And I like Sean Murphy Bunting. And I root for him, but I
Oh
don't
man, I
think,
forgot he was with them. Yeah, okay.
like, but outside of maybe those, like, they don't have much on that defense to really lift them up. So their offense may be able to put up points with Kyler,
Yeah, so they got to win on offense.
but my question is on the defense. And
Yeah,
when you
and they've got
average
a
it out,
defensive-minded head coach, but how much can he suck out of those guys?
exactly. So I think going into the season with the unknown at wide receiver, um, a running back that, yeah, does when healthy every year, he's coming off 1,000-yard season, but when healthy, when he plays, well, he only played 13 games last year
Yeah, and dude, he had a monster year with Pittsburgh back in the
in
day.
2018. He's more. I think you take out the Pittsburgh
I'm
season.
saying he's got potential, but he's
He's
got to
got
stay
potential.
healthy.
He's got to. Number one, he's got to stay healthy. Number two, with Kyler there, I think you're looking more at a 700-yard season, 800-yard season for him than with who they had at
Yeah,
quarterback last
Dobbs and whoever else.
year.
Yeah.
Dobbs and whoever else played quarterback for them.
Okay.
Because and and he has to stay healthy. Behind him, they really have nobody.
Sure.
Who
So
do
you
they
think
have?
they're bottom tier?
I think right now it's fair to put them in the
In the
bottom
bottom
tier,
three?
in the bottom three, because you have a lot of unknowns and
Yeah.
you have a defense that has nobody really, and
Okay.
the
All
defense
right. All
really
right. All right.
dragged them down. If the
Yeah,
defense had
after
a
I looked
couple,
at the record, I kind of thought, okay, it's closer than I thought. You know, I think I was giving them more credit because I thought they had more than 4 wins last year. So
yeah, when you said 4 wins, it caught me off guard, and like you said it again, and I had to go back and
yeah,
check, and like,
yeah,
are you sure of that? But I think with the unknowns that they have, and if I'm sorry, if they had a defense that had a player or two more on it, it could take it up a notch. But I think that defense kind of drags it down, and with the like you're probably looking at closer to 80 overall rating if you have a couple players on that defense.
I got you. Okay, that's cool, man. Well, that was the question of the week. So that's all I got. I think it was a decent episode. You got any closing questions, comments, concerns, jokes that you
No,
want to tell to our fans?
no, I'm not. I don't joke around. I'm 100% serious all the time.
Too serious. Yeah. I mean, we could talk about poop jokes because there's a lot of poop in your life, man. I mean, there's a
And
lot of poop in my life. I mean, it's just a part of life. Not tonight? Okay.
not tonight. Too close to home right now.
All right. Yeah. All right. Well, yeah, I guess with that being said, hey, anybody who's still watching, we hope you'll like the show. If you haven't already, please subscribe. Otherwise, you can check us out again next week. We do this every week. We've been doing it every week for, I don't know, however many fucking years since COVID. So we're kicking ass. It's been good. James, like always, man, it was fun. I'll catch you later, buddy.
All right, sounds good. Have a good one.
Peace out.
Gridiron Grinder. Hut hut hike.